This video is to show the integration capabilities between DDM and DriveWorks. Okay, I'm going to go to our server machine. So on our DDM server, I've tiled these windows so we can see what's happening as it's happening. Now in the top right hand corner we can see SolidWorks is running, and we've got the DriveWorks tab open, and we can see our master files inside this DriveWorks tab. Okay, what we can see in the bottom right hand corner are our SolidWorks master files that are used, and this is this assembly in the top. So these are the master files that we create our design variations from. Now in the top left hand corner is our DriveWorks administrator tool, and as you can see I'm running the personal web edition. I've started it and it's opened a web page where I've got two options in here. One is to reuse existing data if it exists, and the other one is to always create new data. Now before we start creating some new data, I want to talk about how we maintain these master files automatically. If I was to load this bearing housing here, and I'll just go full screen for a second, we can see that this housing does not have a hole in it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's put this back up in the top corner and let's go back to DDM. If I go back into DDM, we can see here that this bearing housing number 5 has got a new attribute against it. I've created this in the DDM admin tool called import type, and I've created a lookup option called DriveWorks master. Now in the DDM administration tool, if we just go to the DDM administration tool, we've got an automatic export routine configured. So if I go to system EUM export, for assemblies, parts and drawings, so for all of these object types, if I go to parts, when a part reaches a status of released, I've got an advanced option here that says if this part, this attribute equals this value, then I want you to export the SolidWorks file into this location, which is our SolidWorks master's location on the server. We also have the ability to decide what that file name format is, and I've chosen to just have the item number without the revision in there because that's how my DriveWorks engine has been configured. Okay, so what that means is if I just cancel this, if I was to up-issue any of these parts or assembly to a new version in the PLM environment, when I release them, those files will automatically be transferred out into the server location. Okay, now the next option we're going to look at is driving a new design. So if I run the DriveWorks engine, I've got a bearing housing with height width, so I'm going to make this a width of 77 and a height of 77, a width of 57, and the shaft length of 107. Okay, so I'm going to release that. Now because this is just a demonstration environment, my SolidWorks and DriveWorks isn't configured to automatically run. On a full implementation it would be. So if I go to the DriveWorks tool embedded within SolidWorks, I can go to the Generate Models icon, and when I select that, it's showing me that I have a new model that needs to be generated. Okay, just before I set that off, this is my output folder for my newly generated SolidWorks designs. Okay, this top file is a DDM file so that we can track and know what files have already been imported. So I'm going to generate my models, so it's going to sit there and process my files, and as you can see in the bottom window the new files are appearing with a timestamp of 1240. Okay, we then get this dialog saying that it's finished processing, it's created a new assembly and 3 new parts. Okay, I can close this. So what we have here are 3 new parts, a new assembly and a new drawing of the assembly, because that's what's been configured. It's also configured a PDF output, but we don't need that. Okay, now what's happening now is it's processing those files. You can see them moving around because this is my automatic import routine processing the files. When it's finished processing, our file at the top will be listed at the top because it was the last thing that it updated to say that these files have now been imported. So if we go back into DDM now, I've got a saved search for DriveWorks generated files. So at the moment we're looking at the master files, which are these based on this import type attribute. If I go to the generated files, then these are the files that have been newly generated inside DDM. So how does that automatic import routine work? Well, if we go back into the admin tool and we go to the import area, I've set up a DriveWorks generated file import. If I go into edit that, we're looking for SolidWorks files. This is what we're calling the routine. We can add comments if we like. It's enabled to be automatically processed, and you have to specify the import definition file. Now I have this on my server, which is my previously generated DDM CAD import definition. This is the mapping of the CAD file parameters to the DDM database attributes. So how do we generate this import file? If I cancel this for a second, okay, there is a DDM import tool, DDM data import. Log in as an administrator, accept the liability, and then we go through the process of, we're looking at SolidWorks files in the file system, and we specify the folder that we are looking for the files. Okay. What we then do is we analyze the files in that folder. So this tool will analyze the files that you've got in that folder, and all we're doing at the moment is building the import definition mapping. Now 55 of them are already in DDM, 6 have got missing children, they're just historical files that are not related to this, so ignore that. Okay, so we analyze them in 4 seconds. If I close this dialog, you then go to the import data wizard, and it's at this point that we start to map the parameters and what should happen. So we go through, if things are already in DDM, then we're going to ignore them, don't import. So this is a previously configured version of it. But as you step through the various options, this is where you can say, I want to reserve this into a specific folder. So if I type in drive, when we automatically import the files, I want them to be reserved into this specific folder. We say next. On this screen, we map the parameters between your data source column. This is where your CAD parameters are. And we do this for parts. We then go through the mapping for drawings. Now at this point, you don't need to run the import. This is where you would save the import configuration here. And as I showed you earlier, I've got a folder and that is my generated file. I'm not going to overwrite it because it's already correct. So I'm going to cancel that, cancel out of here. So we create the import definition file that is used for this automated routine, and we specify it in this area. Okay. There's various other options. What is the folder that we're monitoring, etc. These are all pretty self-explanatory. So I won't go through all of these. We confirm our settings and this will run automatically now. So it's monitoring a folder, it's monitoring this folder, and based on the import mapping file, it will go through and bring all of these files into DDM. Let's go back to DDM. These are the files that we've just imported. There is the bearing housing. If I look at my drawing, what we should see on the drawing, okay, it's not updated the PDF yet. Okay, we'll see that in a minute. Okay, so these are the newly imported files. They've been reserved to this project, which is what we specified in the import tool, and we've also flagged this attribute as DriveWorks generated. Now, what I also have running on my my base computer is our action server. It's really useful, the action server, because this is looking for files that do not have any neutral file attachments. So it's now searching the database, and it will identify any SolidWorks files that don't have PDF or step attachments based on whatever your configuration options are. So there are actually 14 files in my database, and it will go through and it will generate the neutral versions of those files for me automatically. We'll just let that process through. And this is an option. This does not have to be run every time, but it's quite useful because it's automatically doing things for you. Okay, there's my drawing, and there's the next drawing, and it's all complete. Okay, I'm going to close that. I'm going to go back to the server machine, and that action client can be run on the same server machine or run on a different machine. If I refresh my screen here, what we'll now see is I have an automatically generated drawing, and we can see that the height of my housing is 77, and we can see that the width of the housing is 57 as specified in the DriveWorks engine. We can also see for the parts we have our automatic attachments. In this case, it's a step file. So just to close this off, I've reviewed my generated files from DriveWorks, and I'm going to change the status and say, yes, I've checked that they are all okay. I can set them all to checked in terms of their state. Now, I'll change my query here to say, show me checked files. And now I want to set these to change status to released. Okay, there they are. I have a different search here for generated files that have already been released, and as you can see here, there's lots of them in there that have been generated by the DriveWorks engine. So a nice enhancement to DDM that interfaces with the DriveWorks engine. We have the ability to automatically update the master files if they are revised inside the DDM environment. And when we generate files using DriveWorks, we also have the ability to automatically import them into DDM. They can automatically be reserved to a folder, and you can also set it so that when things are added to the folder, a user can be automatically notified that there are some new designs available. So, a great enhancement to DDM for the integration to the SolidWorks DriveWorks generator engine.